Hey folks, we set to go? Just about. Where's your martini tonight, counselor? I'm disappointed. Oh, okay. A one olive martini. Okay. All right, Nicole, we set? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on October 8th, 2025 in the council chambers. We have a roll call this evening. Deputy Mayor Clark,
Present.
Councillor Blackwell,
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh,
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger, Councillor Pranger, Councillor Steinhoff Gray,
Present.
Councillor Stewart,
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
And I'd also like to acknowledge some interested and interesting members in the gallery and our staff members as well. We begin this evening by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. And we recognize and appreciate the contribution that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. And we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture. And we are committed to actions that move us toward a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis. All right, are there any amendments, additions, or deletions to or from the agenda proposed for this evening? And once again, I remind any councillor to disclose pecuniary interest now or as it arises in the meeting and the general nature thereof. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I'll need to declare a conflict of interest for 6.1A, Bruce Power Water Supply and KWTP intake replacement due to my husband's employment at Bruce Power.
Councillor Williams.
I'd also like to declare a 6.1A Bruce Power Water Supply due to my husband's employment at Bruce Power.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray.
I would also like to declare pecuniary interest based on my employment at Bruce Power.
Councillor Kavanaugh. Oh, you're not employed there. Sorry.
We have anyone left?
Here we go. Moving along, we need adoption of minutes from regular meetings. I need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the council meetings held on September 24, 25 be adopted as printed, moved by councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Williams, all in favor, and that's carried. No delegations this evening, so we move on to Bruce Power Water Supply and intake replacement. All right, we have a resolution before us this evening. We'll put it on the floor and then we'll afford Director Weiser to make a couple of comments. So we need a mover and seconder that council support an addendum to the 2024 environmental assessment for the expansion of the Kincardine water supply system and treatment plant to include a new intake pipe, including an update through an addendum to the 2024 Environmental Services Report to provide design details and environmental review for a replacement of the intake pipe, and further that council direct staff to negotiate a draft amendment to the existing agreement to incorporate a cost sharing proposal with Bruce Power for the considered works, moved by councillors Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Stewart. And I would refer to Director Weiser. There have been questions raised about process and what this means to some of the conditions regarding water supply. You know, those are important questions, but the motion still is about directing staff to negotiate a draft amendment to the existing agreement. So we'll pick up some information, but we'll listen to Director Weiser first, please.
Great. Thank you, and through you, Mayor Craig. Just before I get into some of the content pieces of this, if there are questions that either Mark or I are unable to support in a response, Andrew Garland from BM Ross is here in the audience, as well as Nancy Green from Bruce Power. They've been working with us jointly through the entirety of this project. So taking a look at a bit of a high-level overview, and then I'll touch on some questions and responses that staff provided to help aid council here later in the day here too. Essentially, we're in a position that the intake is unable to support the water supply that is required from a number of facets, and so that is for the horizontal commitments that we envision from a development perspective within the overall, I guess, settlement or serviced areas for the municipality, as well as bringing Bruce Power online as a customer. So in combination, all of those things would get us to a point where we would not have satisfactory volumetric water supply. And so how we got there, how that came about, back approximately a little over a year ago, there was a staff report that came to council indicating that we had conducted stress testing. And so that stress testing essentially was to take a look at how much water we could pull in through the pumps and to validate if that matched what we felt the plant design capacity was rated for. With the plant itself, there's a couple considerations. One, we have a permit that says how much water we can pull into that plant and treat. We had a design based on the theoretical pipe sizes and pumps from when they were first looked at and essentially designed and installed. And then we had a desire to understand how that all correlated to actuals. And so in July of 2024, we conducted our initial stress test and found that there were restrictions. Also during that time, it became aware to us that we had an issue with the valve, if council recalls, in that was on the lake side of the intake building. And so we came to council with a request for an emergency replacement of that valve, recognizing that that would be a potential restriction within the line itself, but also a huge impediment that we had a valve in place that we had no ability to operate, and it could close shut at any point. So council supported staff in replacement of that valve. That was completed, and then we went back in and conducted further stress testing. That stress testing was done over a number of occasions and during different weather conditions to try and understand the movement of the water in the lake, how that may be impacted from high winds and different seasonality considerations. So over the course of a number of months and getting us into the spring of 2025, we had conducted that testing and came to the conclusion through that testing that we were unable to provide the volume of water that was required to support all of our goals in terms of big picture development opportunities, as well as Bruce Power as a customer. And so through that, worked with Stantec on what our options were. And so that investigated possibilities of twinning the intake line with a secondary line to support this, or abandoning that line altogether with a replacement of a new line. Through that, that enabled us in June of this year to put a joint application. And when I say a joint application, I mean a joint project application in to the HSWS funding program. That program that we had applied for was for a project in the range of $21 million, and that was to address three kind of core components or projects. One was the necessary upgrades required at the treatment facility itself. That was to address aged out infrastructure, obsolete infrastructure within that, as well as to accommodate the considerations around all of the growth as a whole. A second part of that was to provide a solution to the community of Tiverton for water supply, and that opportunity was either through wells or through a connection to the pipeline, and then the third being the intake itself. And so we have yet to receive a formal notice from the upper levels of government on that grant opportunity. but at that point in June, knew at least the magnitude of what the cost of a potential intake would look like. Over the course of probably through June, July, and then into early August, we were working with BM Ross, Bruce Power, Stantec, and the municipality to determine, is this something that Bruce Power is supportive of going forward with? In the original agreement, there were opportunities through off-ramps for both stakeholders should there be something that like this came up and that they were no longer supportive of moving ahead. Bruce Power was interested in continuing the conversation. And so that led us to a point in late summer where we were preparing a staff report to get before council. Our hope was to be here in September in alignment with the intake, with the intake and the Tiverton EA reports. However, that didn't come to fruition. That's a quick overview of things, and I'm going to jump into some of the questions and just high-level answers around them. And so the first couple really talk about, should we have been doing routine assessments of our intake? What is a standard and essentially what is a standard practice? And through that, we do have a municipal engineer that helps support us through things. Is that something they should have been recommending? Typically with something like this, the typical practice for an intake is to complete, routine investigations for condition assessments. But with that, that's to look and make sure that the integrity is still intact. It isn't to look at, can that pipe produce what we thought it could produce from day one? And so through this, with a significant water take or water user looking to come on board, it was suggested through the EA process that we undertake the testing we have. And the length of time that it's taken really is as a result of a number of findings, one being the valve that was inoperable back a year and a half ago approximately. Next kind of question that we had was, what was the original plan around extending water for Bruce Power? And, was it a more reasonable option? So going back in time, way back to 2019, there was an environmental assessment that was underway. It was looking at, through a joint effort between us and Bruce Power at the time, for a possible secondary water treatment facility up at the north end of the municipality. At the time, we got to about 30% completion on that EA. At that time, it was determined that the cost impact of the infrastructure required was beyond the desirability of stakeholders involved in that discussion. And at the time, that was in the range of $20 to $25 million. And that made the assumption that we could use the existing intake that was there, providing non-potable water through to the BEC. So if that intake wasn't a suitable option, we would have been into additional costs over and above that 20 to 25 at that time. Looking at things now, as a cost comparison to what we're looking at, yes, this is a large dollar value as you aggregate everything, but still would be under those thresholds if we were comparing to today's dollars for what that facility would cost. There was a question that was raised in correlation to the Tiverton project and the decision that council recently made in terms of making connection to the pipeline. So advancing that EA with the intent to connect them as a water customer to this system. Essentially, at the end of the day, while they are significant decisions from a financial standpoint, they are independent of each other from a system consideration. Currently today, we have enough water supply out of that treatment facility to provide potable water to the village of Tiverton. There is not a need for us to upgrade the intake to support that requirement. So what's pushing us into that threshold is ultimately Bruce Power plus planned commitments plus proposed commitments that we know may come about. And those are all part of the official plan in terms of lands that are in our development area. So tying into that, one of the questions that followed, could we look at phasing the improvements of this? And so, through discussion with the project team, the answer from us is that we feel it can be. Ultimately, currently today, we know we do not have all of the committed customers online. we do not have all of the projected customers online, and through that, we feel that there's sufficient water supply in the intake to bring Bruce Power online as well as Tiverton. It's as things build out that we're going to need to do that. So our suggestion through this is that we would still continue the advancement of the EA process that looks at the replacement of the intake and then allows us to enter into the design phases of things and essentially have a project that would be, shelf or shovel ready and ready to go at the time when we do need it, when development has triggered that. The key around that is we would need to figure out what the negotiation looks like with the funding sources, being that Bruce Power is at the table for this, for their share of the works. And if we're looking at construction today versus down the road, we'll want to account for future inflation considerations. There's a question in terms of, what does it look like in relation to funding and our proportionate share? Real high level at this time. I think, it's an answer to say that we don't have a definitive answer to council how we would propose to fund this. We recognize that there's a need to sort that out. And through this and within the recommendation itself, we would like to enter into negotiations with Bruce Power to understand what each party's share would be. And then once we know what that would be, we would come back to council with what our funding strategy would be for the municipality. Final question that was posed to us, what happens if we don't do the work? In terms of Kincardine, there's a couple options. One, we could bring Bruce Power online and move ahead with, the commitments that we can fit within this, and then we essentially can't grow. The other alternative is that we continue to allow growth to happen, but Bruce Power isn't in the picture as a customer. That's a real quick high-level overview without going through all of the response that was provided through the questions. And then just, I think I've touched quickly on kind of, what we're looking at, how we got here. But end of the day, if we incorporate all of the considerations in, we know the intake is a choke point. We want to be prepared to address that. Us as a municipality, without Bruce Power, even at some point, we're going to need to look at this down the line. It just would have been much, much later down the line in terms of, 10 plus years. So,
Okay, thank you very much, Director. We have questions for the Director at this point.
Want to go? I like you go first. Okay.
Bill, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. That is a report. I think that was a tough report. You and I have been around for a long time. That's not an easy report to give to the council. I am not going to talk about how we didn't realize that the intake. I think that's another day, and we can do a root cause analysis. And I just like to put that behind. Tonight, I really like to talk about, I see that John from Bruce Power's here. I hope he brought a checkbook. But anyways, what we need to do is figure out this financially too. We got a couple of partners, and one of the partners has been a good supporter of ours called Bruce Power. They supply 30% of the power for all of Ontario, and they've been very good, and I'd hate to disappoint them. There was one of our future customers, so I think that I have no problems giving you permission to talk with the Bruce Power people, and then I'll give permission to the mayor to talk to the province of Ontario, because we're going to need a lot of partners to move this along. And we just might be lucky, because a bake sale is not going to work for us. Even if we have a community bake sale, I don't think we're going to raise enough money. But, with our partners, this is a discussion that needs to take place and come back to us. Tonight, you had to deliver a very tough message. Usually, Bill Stewart, Councillor Stewart, will go erratic, but I won't, because that's not the point tonight. The point tonight is we'll do a root cause and figure out how this happened, but we'll also, let's talk to our partners and see what they're willing to do. And then we have to come back and talk about both sides of this picture. So for now, that's where I'd leave it. Thank you.
Further questions? Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Adam, I just wanted to thank everyone involved in pulling this together. I appreciate the effort you've taken in terms of providing some context with regards to timelines. If I'm correct, the intake, the testing effectively occurred on about 4 or 5 occasions. Is that right? And it was discovered that there was a problem sort of January, is that correct, of 2025?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Craig. So I can confirm that there were 4 occasions that we did do the stress testing. We knew that in July of 2024, we had a restriction at that time that it was the valve that we believed was the barrier. So through council, that was addressed. And then into the early parts of 2025 is when we realized that, we had an issue, and we confirmed that through a follow-up test in the spring of 2025.
Thanks for that clarification. If I could just follow on. One of the comments that's come through this is perhaps looking at a phased approach. And I think you were saying that that's absolutely fine. At this stage, we're not at that point where we need to do anything other than a phased approach. It's hard to gauge, I suppose, what demands will be in years to come. And I know that you've done your best in sort of perhaps outlining a little bit about what that may look like. Do you have any sort of idea of what a phased approach would look like at this stage, or is it?
So through you, Mayor Craig, I'll jump at this, and then Andrew, if you've got anything to add or help support me back there. So at this point, I think what that phased approach will look like for us is that the first couple of years is really so probably a 2 to 3 year range roughly is to do the environmental assessment and close that portion of it out. That then gets us into a position as a municipality that we can undertake the detailed design of this. So I think we're looking at somewhere between 3 to 5 year range, where we're just looking at getting an EA done and a design done and being ready to move ahead to construction. And then depending on what happens with development in terms of residential growth and commercial growth in the community, we could be somewhere between that 5 to 15 year mark in terms of actually constructing the intake. And Andrew, if you think differently, please jump in.
No, he's concurring fully with your comments there. So just to confirm that if this is the preferred option for Tiverton, like we can provide the water sooner than that, but this is the phase specifically for the design and construction of the intake pipe.
Through you, Mayor Craig, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
And to add to that, we can also provide the water to Bruce Power through this. It's just the bigger picture of addressing the full build out of growth.
Deputy Mayor, you go ahead again.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Adam, for that. Like I did get that line of what you were saying, is that we're able at this point to provide both to Bruce Power and to Tiverton, but I'm grateful for your kind of overview of what it may look like. And I appreciate, once again, it's hard to determine what years ahead will look like, but thank you for that. And I reiterate my thanks both to your department as well as our partners, including Bruce Power, for their support and for helping to pull this together. It's something that I will be supporting this evening.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, again, I appreciate that you're coming forward. It's never fun to have to come and deliver this kind of news to this kind of an audience. But I do see a lot of optimism and hope here. We know that, Bruce C is undergoing its process at the same time. So it's important for us as a municipality to do what we can to be ready for that and to help that along in our capacity. So what it would have been nice to know about this back before we redid the water studies and updated that, so we had a funding plan in place. It's the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So now that we know, what do we do going forward? I would also say that I think this meeting would be a whole lot less intense if we would have been fortunate enough to receive one of the water housing enabling grants. I know there was 40 million handed out to Bruce Huron, and a lot of this doesn't seem to be as pressing, and we wouldn't be nearly as tight if we had, say, the $18 million that Saugeen Shores was awarded last August.
If we can just continue on that vein of conversation just for a moment, it's my understanding that provincial funding is not applied to where the reconstruction of a project has already begun. Like it needs to be shovel ready. And I'm wondering if this phasing, does it extend into multiple parts of the water treatment plant? Or is like how many different sections could we split this into to hopefully be able to receive provincial support for rehabilitation and construction?
So through you, Mayor Craig, our position on the overarching elements of this is that the intake itself would be something that would be eligible for future grant opportunities. Certainly, we pulled it in as a joint effort and a broader project, but certainly something that, as I've stressed, can be something down the line. In order to bring Bruce Power on as a customer at the immediate time, all of the upgrades that we've proposed within the design and review of the plant is something that we should be doing now. In bringing on a customer that's going to require the volume of water that they do, we want to make sure that our plant is in a position to support that without interruption. So if there was another opportunity before we got that project to a tender state, then we would be in a position to apply. A lot of the funding models or opportunities that have been out recently generally allow you to do your engineering, your design work, your EA type stuff in advance. But many of them have been stipulated with the clauses such as you shall not have tendered it before or started construction prior to receiving a grant agreement.
So if I remember correctly, the Hempson report, our water study, indicated that we would be able to move forward with those initial upgrades. Like that's already built into our funding water model. So it's not like an additional expense that we weren't expecting. It's steady increases in our water rates, but necessary for the improvements to provide the water. Okay. So we have before us the motion to support an addendum to the environmental assessment and to direct staff to negotiate a draft amendment to the existing agreement to incorporate a cost sharing proposal with Bruce Power for the considered works. All in favor of the motion, please? Anyone opposed? And that's carried. Thank you for that report. And thank you for being here this evening. Okay. Okay, here they are. All right. We have the Kincardine Township, and just because that's my alma mater, it is not Kincardine Tiverton Township. It is Kincardine Township and Tiverton Public School. So it is not that I'm a little anal and possessive about that, but anyway. This item was pulled from the September 10, 2025 consent agenda for further discussion. It's regarding the KTTPS Community Safety Zone application, and we refer to our Director Weiser for a further information on that.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Craig. Essentially, at the time when we drafted this report, it was to bring it back to the surface, to bring an update to council on where we were at a staffing level, and to, I guess, provide information on the progress we had made and/or why it had taken so long to get to the point of where we were at. And so I'm happy to add, I guess, to what's within the report that the drafted application has been submitted to the OPP. So that is with them for review. So if you correlate it back to the report in terms of the next steps, that is step number 4 in terms of that submission. And then following the review and satisfaction to that, we would be in a position to make submission to the ministry for their review and consideration of the safety zone. I guess the only other things to highlight really in terms of when council provided the direction and why we've taken so long to get here We were unable at the staffing level to actually put an application together until we knew what the ministry's position was. So the last direction essentially we had from council not only was to apply for the safety zone, but also gave us the authority back in around that time to conduct a third-party traffic study. MTO had done one themselves, had indicated that we could conduct one if we felt a desire. We did. The results of that differed from theirs. The results of ours indicated that a left turn lane was the warrants were met for northbound traffic. And so we had been working with the ministry trying to get a response from them on when that actually may come into their programming. They've indicated to us that they typically wouldn't do that as a standalone project. It would get added the next time they are doing highway improvements. The last time highway improvements were done was within the last 5 years through this stretch, and they typically look at every 10 to 15 years. So anyways, we didn't get that response until the last few months, and so that put us in a position to get working on the safety zone application and then provide an update to council. So the positive part of this as an update is that we have made that application submission in draft to the OPP, and we expect that we'll have a response from them in reasonable time. We've had good discussion with the OPP, and they are supportive of the application. So.
Councillor Steinhoff, Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. This is a question maybe for both the CAO and the director, but given the fact that our traffic study has shown that it would warrant the left turn lane, and I understand what you're saying, if it's only 5 years since they did roadworks and we're looking at another 10, if it is a safety concern and consideration, do we have any recourse to try to prioritize this with the ministry? MTO?
Through you. So we've used that information as justification for the creation of the community safety zone. We can certainly continue to pitch and push for the improvements, but in the interim, this may be the best solution to get to a safer space on that stretch of highway.
Thank you. With the number of accidents we've seen there, I just think we're remiss not to continue to push.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I do want to say thank you to our staff. I know that they've done work on this issue in partnership with community partners like the OPP and the Blue Water District School Board. I'm wondering, just for public record, Director Wiseman, if you can kind of walk through all that we've done to just end up here, because I know we've done the traffic study. We've had delegations to the MTO. I've had conversations in the hallway. There's other things that you can speak to that were tried before we got to this stage.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Craig, I'd be happy to touch on some of that. So in addition to the information shared, some other efforts that we did look to, we did reach out to the Minister of Transportation with a request to take a look at a speed reduction through the community of Kincardine. That speed reduction request was from Bruce Ave all the way through to the North Line extension. They did commit to conducting an analysis and came back from that analysis and indicated that the warrants weren't there to bring that speed reduction forward. So in parallel or in part of that piece of information, and that took probably 2/3 to 3/4 of a year from commitment to actually completion on their part. We had undertaken the traffic study, provided that to MTO, and worked with them, I would say, rigorously to try and get that response. Those are really probably the efforts on our end, those two kind of key considerations, and then has put us in a position to make application now.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, just one follow-up. It's not clear to me in kind of looking through some of the legislation around community safety zones. Is our application, do we just make an application for a community zone, or do we make one for, say, like a lower speed limit as well? Like, is this just going in to say there's going to be increased fines during these periods, or is it just speed be a factor as well?
So through you, Mayor Craig, I will take a look at the application and confirm that for council, but in my experience, generally a safety zone, if it is a higher speed posting such as this, would have a reduction assigned with it. Otherwise you're not going to get the effect and benefit of what you're trying to achieve, but I'll confirm through to council on that.
Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you through you. I just wanted to confirm there's around timing, it mentions is the minimum lead time is approximately 3 months. So just wanted to confirm from the time since our application is submitted, how long we expect that we would see the safety zone in place if it was approved.
So through you, Mayor Craig, the piece that I can't tell you is how long it's going to take from the day we've put it on the OPP's desk for them to get it back to us with a sign off, and then for that to then be approved at the ministry level. The other piece that is tricky is because this is an MTO corridor, we're not in control of actually doing those improvements or erecting the signage. So I can't give you a good answer around that. I would hope that it would be expedited, and that's something we can advocate for, but we don't have, unfortunately, the control to go put our boots on the ground and install the signs and posts and all of that.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through the chair, I feel for you. I've been dealing with MTO and a couple of planning issues. And to be honest with you, I'm very disappointed with that whole ministry. They're taking way too long to get back to us, like a year. And we're probably going to need a formal complaint to the Ministry of Transportation because this one could last another year. You never know. A little disappointed by their opinion after our study and everything else. And, you know, it's one of those things now that the MTO is not going to do what we think would be a safe thing. Then it's up to the OPP to enforce it. They're going to have to enforce it. I mean, I came from Emery Curran, took the B line in, doing about 85, 90, 4 cars passed me. And it was double line and everything. We have a problem with speed. So we're going to need our friends and our partners, the OPP, to enforce it. Thank you.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. Just one more thing that I was asked to add in speaking with the principal this morning. We were discussing some of the justification and one of them being pedestrian activity. Knowing it's a highway, she was mentioning that not all the parents have vehicles that have their kids in that school. It's a feeder school from the entire community. And she said that over the past 2 years, there's been a significant increase in parents walking their children to school along the highway, which is technically illegal. So I don't know whether that's captured in the report or not, but she did want that to be acknowledged that there's unfortunately pedestrian activity because there's no other way to get their children to the school if they miss the bus.
Okay, Director, thank you for that update. We'll look forward to hearing the good news when it gets to us. All right, moving on to Smart Mobility Agreement. We need a mover and seconder that council select an option, and we might have some discussion before we get there, and direct staff to bring back a bylaw to enact the agreement. Need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Stewart and Steinoff Gray. Conversation, please. Councillor Stewart, please.
I would support the lease. I believe that's option 1. I would support that for now until we really have our 1 year underneath our belt and really take a look at it. To invest that kind of money, $160,000, into a program that we think, but we don't know. So I think that it would be wise for us to go with option 1 for now. Thank you.
Councillor Steinoff Gray, please.
I'm aligned with that as his seconder. So if that's the option we're putting forward for a vote, I'm comfortable with that. That was the one I would have selected also.
Councillor, is that your hand, Deputy Mayor? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. I'm pretty excited about the thought of expanding SMART and bring really, I guess, a service that is more akin to what was offered prior to the pandemic. In terms of the options available, whilst initially, I think the viewpoint was that the purchase was perhaps the best option, I'm certainly okay with the lease for effectively the trial period to see how that works. I think it does give us some flexibility. There are some terms in the lease I suspect will need to be reviewed and looked at a bit closer. And the hope is that perhaps there is the potential of purchasing a secondhand vehicle for a reasonable cost at the end of the lease. But I certainly support us moving forward with this. As I've said, there's perhaps some terms that I would want to revisit, but in terms of moving forward, I'm hoping that this can get started before the end of the year. Maybe that's a bit optimistic, but those are my thoughts.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I think I'm noticing that we have a representative from SMART on the call, and I'm wondering whether I'm able to direct a question to them, if that's okay.
Sure, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the questions is around the length of the agreement. I think I'm just thinking about the challenge perhaps of getting everything up and running again. I'm hopeful by the end of the year and always an optimist. One of my challenges is with our budget year and being at the last year of our term. I'm curious whether the SMART board would be potentially willing, and whether council would also then be willing to look at a 15-month agreement so that the agreement would be able to be renegotiated or considered in the next budget cycle. Because if it was to end in November or December, we will be in what we would call lame duck period, unable to make a commitment, and the new council may not be in a position yet to continue it. So I would be concerned about a potential gap in service. Just wondering if the SMART representative can potentially speak to that, and then perhaps council might want to weigh in as well.
Through you, Mayor Craig, yes, the board would be amenable to that.
Okay. Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you. Through you. I would support that as well. I mean, one of the concerns I'd raised originally when we had talked about this was I'm not really sure that 12 months even gives us enough time to get the program up and running and to really understand the full extent of the use. I mean, anything new, it takes a while for people to start using it. So I think that 15 months would also allow us to make sure that give us more time to make sure that it's being used in the way that we want it to be.
Okay, well, I'm just going to interject for a moment.
Go ahead.
So broadly speaking, I'm in favor of the lease too, but this is an agreement, though well crafted by SMART Board's lawyers. It is an agreement that has not been vetted by either municipalities, legal staff, or municipal staff. And I think we would be well advised to direct staff, you know, we have a motion on the floor, but to defer that until we afford our own staff opportunity to review and make sure that the recommendations that they've heard this evening might be possibly implemented so that it does fit in with our budget cycle. It does fit in with our insurance. That not that I'm saying that SMART Board didn't do this in good faith and all that, but we would never accept an agreement from any other organization, any like province or anybody, without having our legal run through it and say, well, this is a good thing, but it really doesn't accommodate the municipalities' regulations or whatever. So I'm thinking that with council concurrence that it would be wise to ask our CIO what sort of time frame staff might need to have a reasonable review of this, and then bring it back and consider, based on the one option, like not both of them, but if option one appears to be the most well-supported option, then do it in a fashion that affords us the time to have appropriate consideration of it. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And while I see that there is a need for legal to look at it, I just wonder if that cannot be done concurrently. So effectively, the recommendation is to direct staff to bring back a bylaw to enact the agreement. I would presume that part of the process would be for legal to review it during that period. I accept that is something that's necessary, but this isn't going to be enacted until it comes back in any event. So I wonder, instead of sort of a two-stage approach, whether it can be done all at once and then by law, the legal makes the necessary recommendations, we can adjust or amend accordingly and enact at that stage.
And expedite the process. CAO, can you comment on the Deputy Mayor's wise counsel here?
Certainly through you, Mayor. Yes, I think that if there are further suggestions for minor tweaks and adjustments to what has been proposed from council, we can listen to those and incorporate that so that a draft bylaw with an agreement includes a review on our end and incorporates the components that our council would like to see, and checking that, of course, with SMART and its board to ensure that they are satisfied. And as per our normal practice, I would expect we would get a signature on their end first before we bring it back to our council, so that then council's fully on board with how that timing will work.
Are we in concurrence with that path forward?
That's what I read. The council selects option one, direct staff to bring back a bylaw.
Yeah. Well, it's a little far, it's a little more,
No
yeah.
time, no
No.
date.
I don't think so. We have deferred the original, like, we're not going to pass the I don't think we're going to. Hi, clerk. Should we pass this, or should we, understanding the direction to staff, is like, do you need a friendly amendment to make it more accurate, or are you comfortable with what this motion says and understanding the direction that we've afforded this evening through the Deputy Mayor's comments?
Through you, or no, to you. I think we can be satisfied with the current motion as it reads, hearing and understanding the desire for a perhaps slightly adjusted time frame so it doesn't land right in a difficult time for a future council. I guess if there are any other items that council would like to see tweaked or adjusted, that would be helpful to hear about.
Are there any further adjustments or amendments or anything in the agreement that caught your attention? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right.
That was option one.
Option one. Next is the current H2 Public Energy Hydrogen Peaker Plant support resolution. We need a mover and seconder that council endorse the attached independent electricity system operation, IESO, municipal support resolution for the current H2 200 megawatt hydrogen peaker plant proposed at the Bruce Energy Center. And further, that council direct the mayor and clerk to execute the letter of intent from current H2, which outlines the foundational elements of a future community benefit agreement should the IESO application be approved. Moved by councillors Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Stewart this time. Sherry, do you have a comment, or would you just like to answer questions?
I mean, I think I put the report included quite a bit of detail. This is a pretty significant investment, over $500 million for this project. We think it aligns well with the vision, with our official plan policies for the Bruce Energy Center, and is a nice fit with the nearby nuclear facility. And I just like to highlight that this municipal support resolution doesn't circumvent any of the typical planning approvals and permitting process. So the proponent would still be required to move through that as we had outlined in the letter of intent. We do have some members from Public Energy or with us tonight too, if there's any specific questions about this proposal.
Any questions for our nuclear coordinator? Well, okay, all in favor of the motion? So I would, I just wanted to comment, we are excited about issuing this letter of support. We are looking forward to a great partnership once IESO figures out that you deserve to be here in Kincardine. So that's our path forward. So thanks very much.
Well done.
All right, we move on to notice of motion. Are there any notice of motions presented this evening? Just like everybody else, as soon as they get their way, they leave the council chamber and go out for dinner or something. No, no.
Like pizza. Feel like.
All right, so we have, this is a motion that every council deals with every year. So an application can be made for the cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes under sections 357 or 358 of the Municipal Act for several reasons, including, but not limited to, a structure being raised by fire, demolished, or a change in classification. The process is application-based. Documentation is internally reviewed and verified by staff, and then sent to MPAC for their determination of the assessment reduction. The assessment and tax reduction are then provided to council for final approval. So applicants may, of course, make representation to council if they wish to do so. Are there any applicants here this evening? No, don't think so. So we need a mover and seconder that whereas section 357 or 358 of the Municipal Act provides a process for property owners to apply for cancellation, reduction, and refund of taxes under specific circumstances, including but not limited to a change in the use of a property, demolition, or fire, the property being substantially unusable for a period of at least 3 months, or a gross and manifest error in the preparation of the assessment roll. And whereas in the opinion of municipal staff, the 5 write-offs meet the criteria set out in the Municipal Act, and whereas the total of the applications amount to $22,867.15, with the municipal share being $11,628.45. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the applications as provided. Any discussion? All in favor? Was there a mover and seconder for that? Jennifer and Rory. Good. Consideration of bylaws, Parkland Dedication Amendment. We need a mover and seconder that the Parkland Dedication Amendment to be deemed to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2025-126, moved by councillors Kavanagh and Stewart. All in favor? That's carried. Appointment of bylaw enforcement officers. We need a mover and seconder that the appointment by law enforcement officers, Municipal Support Services, Inc., 2025 be deemed to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2025-127. Moved by councillors Stewart and Deputy Mayor Clark. Is there any conversation about this? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed are considered routine and are enacted in one motion unless a council member or the CAO, I didn't know you could do that too, may request one or more items to be removed for discussion either this evening or a subsequent meeting. Any councillors have any items you would like withdrawn for consideration? So we need a mover and seconder that council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated October 8, 2025 and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Moved by councillors William and Blackwell. All in favor? That's carried. Council general announcements. Councillor Williams, please.
No announcements.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I only have one announcement tonight, which is tomorrow is the Chamber of Commerce Community Achievement Awards. There we go. And I'm really excited about the youth award that will be given out for the first time tomorrow night. So congratulations to all the nominees, and looking forward to see all of the winners.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. I just actually wanted to say thank you to all the volunteers that helped put on the Tiverton Fall Fair this past weekend. It was absolutely incredible. I had Councillor Pranger out helping at the horse show as well as Councillor Hinchberger. And Jeff Schwaz, without him, I don't think we'd have a horse show. He's one of our main organizers and we lend a hand as we can. So I really wanted to acknowledge all the people that came out to help. It was a good turnout. We had a lot of beginner riders. It was a lot of fun. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all those volunteers because we can't have these events without the folks that volunteer their time.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Ditto. The community really went over top and it was a great event and Mother Nature was absolutely wonderful. Unbelievable. It was a great event. Thanks.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Yes. So first up, we have October 11th. That's this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're doing a October Food Fest at Victoria Park where we're bringing together a whole bunch of food trucks. So weather's going to be great. Come on down, enjoy some wonderful food. And then on October 25th, the BIA is hosting the Downtown Spooktacular where we close off the main street. All the kids get dressed up in the costumes. Some of the parents get dressed up in the costumes. And we go around and look at costumes and collect candy. Great time. I can take yours. I'll let you have the last one. And there's another event on October 25th.
Councillor Pranger, please.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed the Tiverton Fall Fair as well. We were talking about it. It was, I think, the best weather in history. And the first time I've had a good excuse to take a break from the horse show and actually go enjoy the rest of the activities of the Fall Fair because I had a 3-year-old dragging me to the ride. So it was a great weekend. And thank you to Councillor Steinoff, Gray, for always asking me to come help because it gets me there.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. October 25th, there is the Afro-Caribbean Youth Awards at the Davidson Center, 5:30, doors open. So look forward to seeing you all there.
So a couple of announcements. The Blue Water School Board website includes information regarding a new senior school build. There's details about the completion of the sale purchase agreement. The location has not had the big reveal yet, but it might someday. And
It's starting date.
someday when you see a shovel somewhere, that's where the school's going, but that's okay. But included in that announcement is the a consultation period starting actually Monday, 2 days ago, and running for 3 weeks. So if there are people who are interested in making comments about the best choices that the school board can make regarding the construction of the school, this is opportunity to do that. Also, this is Ontario Agriculture Week from October 6th to October 12th, and we know that agriculture is one of the 3 economic pillars in our community, along with nuclear and tourism. And just to remind us all, agriculture plays a vital role in our community through the economy, through preserving ecosystems. And the coolest thing about farming, it's a real business that affords you a great way of life. It's the coolest thing in the world. And yes, I'm very biased about that. So that's my totally non-pecuniary declaration of interest. All right. CAO.
I did just want to take a moment to thank a small group of our staff team that helped to celebrate the volunteers within our community. So the volunteer appreciation event was last week, and a good number of our volunteers were able to come out. There are so many things that happen within our community that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for great volunteers. Obviously, they help out at other events as well, but it's really special when they help with municipal events and support the things that help make this community great. So I thank the staff team that helped pull that together and all the council members that were able to attend. Sorry, I was on the road, but otherwise definitely would have been there. We also have a Walk for Wenjack that is happening in October 18th. So from 1 to 3. It's in partnership with Bruce County. So we are participating in a national walk for Wenjack, which honors the legacy of Cheney Wenjack, a young Anishinaabe boy who died while trying to return home after escaping a residential school. So again, Saturday, October 18th from 1 to 3, participants will be given a guide which will reference points along the walk that they learn about Cheney Wenjack's walk. You're free to attend, but there is a registration that is required, and our website has details on how to get registered.
All right, thank you. Okay. So we need a mover and seconder that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering the closed session minutes dated September 24, 2025, trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, in particular Westario Power. A position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding Kincardine Ag Society. A trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial are the same as all the other ones above, specifically about the Bruce area solid waste and recycling governance and commercial collection. And a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be carried on or applied to any negotiations or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, specifically a public relations firm. And further, the council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by councillors Steinhoff, Gray, and Pranger. All in favor? That's carried. 5-minute bio break. We've hardly been here, let alone.